Elias George, who is the chief executive of the Kochi Metro project, has to leave for the airport to catch a flight. So he will be making his presentation first and will possibly not wait for Q&A. And then we will continue with the rest, with the others. So I'll invite Elias to come forward, and also I invite the other two speakers, Joy Umman and Roshan Kainadi, to please come up to the podium. And very briefly, let me just introduce Elias George. He's an IAS officer of the Kerala cadre and a very senior officer who is currently occupying a very important chair. In fact, one could say that as far as citizens of Kochi are concerned, that's the hot seat, which is the CEO of the Kochi Metro Rail project, which, we see evidence of the issues which he'll be grappling with every time we drive out any part of the city. We see the construction work going on. So in a nutshell, briefly, so far in this program, we were talking about micro-level issues, and while there were references to the ecosystem, we were essentially talking about elements of the ecosystem. In this session, we sort of zoom back, like a Google map view, we zoom back to like a helicopter view and try to see what is the role played by infrastructure in providing a kind of a playing field where entrepreneurship and enterprise can flourish. I won't take too much. I have some other introductory remarks to make, but because of this constraint of our first speaker, I will invite Elias to come forward and make his presentation, and maybe as we go along and subject to the time availability, I will probably interject with some other comments. So over to you, Elias.
Thank you, Bala, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Ms. Heydruf is a very tough act to follow, because after listening to her, you feel very diminished and embarrassed at the kind of tawdry and self-seeking things you do when you get up in the morning. Having said that, we also believe that we are doing something for the benefit of everyone living in the city and in the state. Most of you are probably living in the city, but even if you live in the rest of Kerala, the city of Kochi will have a great impact on your lives. The things you do, you get up in the morning, will have some relationship with the growth of the city. And that's what I want to talk about. How do we expand economic opportunities for the people who live in this area by improving the urban setting? The first three lines are the motto, the mission statement of Kochi Metro. When we started this company in 2012, we had just a very simple ambition, that is to construct and run a decent metro like other cities of the world. But then we realized that just building a metro and running it is not a solution to Kochi's problems. The key to transforming the city lies in its central nervous system, which is the public transportation system. And we realized that unless you do a whole lot of other things around the metro, public transport can never become a viable option for those of you who use cars. There's some very dreadful statistics about public transportation in Kochi, which I'll come to now. Before that, what does Kochi offer? What does Kochi have to offer the world? It's a very beautiful harbor city. It's a locale where history and nature intersect. It has been one of the gateways to the West, the Roman Empire, the whole story of Muziris and so on. It's got highly empowered and well-integrated communities. One of the great things about Kerala is that settlements are not enclaved on the basis of religion. You find all kinds of communities living together. It's very unusual for Indian cities. There's safety, there's alternative healthcare, it's a wellness destination. The geolocation is very strategic. About 70% of India's data traffic makes landfall at Kochi. These are the kind of benefits that we have. And of course, the greatest thing about Kerala is what is called equity of opportunity. There's this British philosopher called John Rawls. You must have heard about the John Rawls test, some of you. What the John Rawls test says is that if you can't choose which family you're born into, where would you choose to be born in this world? And Kerala is one destination in the world which really satisfies the John Rawls test, because even if you're born poor in the state, you have a decent chance of access to the healthcare system, of access to the judicial system, the educational system, and so on. In rural Bihar, it may not be the same case. So these are the kind of benefits that Kochi has, which you must play upon to sort of realize the potential of the city. So as I was saying, entire key to upgrading the city of Kochi is to improve and transform the public transportation network. And if Kochi is to become really a world-class city, public transport has to become the default option, not the option which is resorted to by people who don't have access to cars. This is the key to transforming Kochi. There's a very dreadful fact about Kochi and many other cities in India. I don't know how many of you know that 5% of the trips per day carry more than 50% of the passengers, which means public transportation is only 5% of the trips made in any day in the city of Kochi, which also means that 95% of the movement of vehicles are for carrying 40% of the passengers. There is no road democracy in the streets of Kochi. In Kochi Metro Rail Limited, we actually thought of starting a movement for road democracy, but as you know, things can get really out of hand in Kerala. Soon there are people stopping the cars on the road and saying, get into a bus. So we abandoned that idea. What's happening in cities like Kochi is business as usual. You have more buildings in prime localities, more cars. Everyone's got 2-3 cars now. No road expansion because the cost of land is so high and the city is also built up. And the same travel behavior, it's more of the same. And unlike in Western cities, the inner city is much more coveted than the periphery. In America, for instance, the rich suburbs, the rich guys go to the suburbs. But here it's different. Everyone wants to stay in the central business district. So cities are getting congested and expensive and unrealistic. How do you re-architect the city? The tipping point is when the government and the city and the citizens combine together to make public transportation the default option for all kinds of citizenry. That's what we are trying to do. And Metro, we realize, is I'm delighted to learn that the last 2 days you've all been talking about disruptive innovation. Metro is one disruptive innovation which can be used to transform the mobility architecture as well as the urban architecture of the city. Why? Because it completely forces a re-engineering of the public transportation system. The bus routes will become completely unviable. You have to re-architecture the taxi networks, the boat networks, everything has to be realigned around the metro's itinerary and schedules and the lines they go by. It also alters travel behavior. Working hours become much longer. Your leisure behavior changes. You can go for a late show at night. A woman can go and come back later at night on the metro system. There is a movement across Indian cities to reclaim the night for Indian women. And Kochi is one city where you see that hardly any women move around at night. So these kind of disruptive innovations like Metro will change your working behavior, your social behavior, and your leisure activities and times. Of course, it increases inward investment. It also, in Delhi, you've seen this, it inculcates better civic behavior. Better civic behavior moves out of the metro stations into larger areas because people are very proud of the metro structures. They try and keep it clean, no spitting, no debris or garbage on the metro system. And that kind of behavior radiates outwards into the periphery of the city. Most importantly, it brings a new brand equity to the city. Once a metro comes to a city, the city sort of gets into a higher plane, with resultant benefits in terms of tourism, inward investment, people coming and buying up apartments here, and so on and so forth. So basically, the short point is that this opportunity of the metro, we are spending 6,000 crore, not a small amount of taxpayers' money for this toy of the city of Kochi. How do you use this new toy to bring about a lot of desirable changes in the city's structure, environment, and transportation systems? So we changed our organizational goal from building the metro to providing a seamless and convenient public transportation system to the city of Kochi, which is how the whole concept of this UMTA, the Urban Metropolitan Transportation Authority, came into being. The state cabinet about 2 weeks back has passed the UMTA ordinance. They're just waiting for these elections to be over. So maybe tomorrow, day after, we'll have the legislative framework for unifying all public transportation system in place. Basically, it means that you'll have a single ticket, a single network, a single timetable, and a single management for all forms of public transport, including the metro, the buses, the boats, the taxis, and so on. The ownership will be different, but the whole public transportation network will function as a single system, which will hopefully induce people like you who drive around in cars to try the public transport system in Kochi. We are also coming out with the Kochi Mobility app, which will also be a shopping app, it will be a money transaction app, a lot of information, art and culture shows, etc. A lot of government services we are going to migrate to this app. This will be also a ticket for the metro and the buses, etc. You can pay your power bills and your water bills and so on here. It's a very, very comprehensive app, which is much more than what's been done in other Indian cities. We also realized that 1/3 of the city lies in water, and we didn't do anything about it. So, with the assistance of the German government, we are getting in a 800 crore transportation and livelihood improvement project where we are providing about 78 fast boats across the backwaters of Kochi, which will enable the girls who live in those islands, Perela and so on, to come and work in the establishments in the city of Ernakulam. It also includes elements like road improvement, lighting, jetty, etc., so people can commute across the night safely and conveniently. And I believe this is much more important than the metro for the city of Cochin, given the geography of this place. A couple of other things to improve public transportation, which we are trying to do is, Kerala doesn't have good footpaths. We are now doing one world-class footpath from the boat jetty to the MG road to show Kerala what a decent footpath is like. It's a very expensive project of us. We're going to spend 8 crore on about 1.5 kilometers of footpath. Also, a lot of we don't have any places for public, leisure. Roads are, willy-nilly the playground for children in cities like Ernakulam. So we are doing a lot of placemaking activities in 2 or 3 locations in the city so that people can come out and do some recreation in our public spaces. Also promoting cycling and walkways, as I mentioned. Also, we are doing 2 urban developments which will hopefully be like the Info Park and Smart City, a center for young entrepreneurs to come together and co-create ideas and businesses, etc. One is the metro city at Kakanad and a huge metro village at this location called Muttam, which is about 230 acres of land. We are planning to set up a really state-of-the-art, eco-friendly city within a city at this location in Muttam. And again, to migrate people who use personal transportation vehicles to public transport, a lot of other stuff is being planned. Free information and entertainment flows into the metro system. Click and collect of all the shopping and services. You can go and order your stuff on the phone and collect your stuff from the metro system when you go back home in the evenings. Also, all these metro stations and structures are going to be locales of tourism and artistic interest. We are theming the entire Kochi metro around the theme of nature and the Western Ghats. And each station will be particularly focused on, QSAT station will have the maritime history of Kerala, Kunjali Marikkar and all that. Idapalli will be on the spice routes and the spice trade of Kerala, and so on and so forth. The MG Road station will be basically what is Ernakulam like the days of Shaktan Tamburan. So we've taken out some lovely pictures and all that to show what Ernakulam was like before the great flood of the Periyar and so on. These are going to be really, unlike in other Indian metros, our stations are going to be great centers of culture, tourism, and literature, including sights, sounds, and whole works. This is just a picture of, a lot of people ask me what it's going to look like. This is what it is. So the point I'm trying to make is that a minimum level of investment is required in cities like Kochi to flourish an ecosystem where young guys who are sitting like this can thrive. Malaysia became a big center of IT because Intel went to Penang. Likewise, Chennai had the auto industry. So Kochi needs to attain a brand equity of its own so that people are attracted here by the beauty and the tourism and so on, so that more and more of ideas and people and money flows into the destination. Kochi's got all the ingredients for it, we just need to put it together. So this lever of public transportation will hopefully, it will also transform the urban landscape. There are new theories, the alignment of the metro should have been outside the city. The city will follow the metro, etc. These are now we are trying to do in our second phase of metro construction. It will provide more economic opportunities, more flexible working hours, and safer transit through the city, and hopefully more inward investment in terms of tourism and so on. Global visibility and a better brand equity for Kochi. And last thing, I don't want to take long, one thing I keep telling the tourism, my friends in tourism in Trivandrum is that you need to start branding Kochi as a destination. Kerala has acquired a good global brand, God's own country and so on, but cities like Barcelona, Paris, and Bangkok have branded themselves as destinations. Kochi's got all the ingredients for being branded by the governments of India and the government of Kerala and people like TAI and other organizations as a destination of its own, as a wellness destination, a tourism destination, and as one of the most charming and delightful cities in the world. And this is the kind of, we have the potential in many ways in terms of history, in terms of the geography, in terms of all the sights and sounds, in terms of the equity of life here. And we need to put that all together into a great package and brand Kochi for making Kochi one of the really hot destinations of the world. And why we will get there? One of the great things about Kochi Metro has been we've acquired about 500 parcels of land from people who've really bled in giving it, because these are the most expensive parts of the land of the city. Somebody's got 40 cents of land, we go and take away the 20 cents near the road, which is really prime of the prime. I'm really glad to tell you, except one or two of the names, the famous and the names, except one or two of those, every single one of them has given land to us happily, saying, look, this is a benefit to our children. I never tire of telling the story of one chap called Muhammad. His house was being acquired for the 4th time, one by the National Highway, once by the PWD, once by the KSCB, and lastly by the Metro. The last piece of land we went and acquired. And he said, look, I am now homeless, but do it because my children and your children will have a better future in the city. There's also a tail end to the story. We went and told that to Chief Minister. He immediately allotted some of the land to him. But this is the kind of goodwill which will see us through, which will see the Metro through, and which will provide the kind of momentum for all of us together to transform Kochi into what it really needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Elias, for that. I think it ended up, almost on an emotional note, as you can see. So we are talking much more than just a metro railway project. It is something like nothing less than transforming soul of a city and making it into something which will become a place which will attract entrepreneurs and investors to come in future. Our next speaker is Joy Umman. Since Elias has to leave for the airport in a few minutes, if there are any questions, we can probably take 1 or 2 questions for him to answer. If there are 1 or 2 questions specifically aimed at, about the Kochi Metro project and public transportation in Cochin, please raise your hands. We can have about 2 questions.
A line behind the metro. Whichever government comes to power, nobody will dare to stop these dreams. In case we have the enactment out now.
Thank you, sir. I now request the moderator to present a memento to Mr. Elias George IAS, Managing Director of Cochin Metro Rail Limited. A big round of applause to Mr. Elias George. Thank you, sirs.